privilege to welcome and to introduce to you who don't know him, the director of this amazing movie, Los Angeles Film School alumnus,
That's right.
Newacheck.
I'm going to hug you in front of everybody just because we have to. You're doing well. Awesome. Okay, and we'll sit down in these things. They call them chairs, I think.
Kyle had a hard day. He's been promoting this movie for, well, the premiere was last night. 1,000 people attended the premiere.
Yeah, in the theater that we were watching it in.
Pretty amazing.
And then across the street, I don't know what the capacity was there.
Wow, wow. All right, well, let me start out by asking you, because we all know you because of Workaholics, of course, and then let's give it up for Workaholics.
Thank you. Yes. Hell of a TV show.
But this is not Workaholics,
No.
nor is it Game Over Man.
It's definitely not Game Over, man.
This is like a quantum step in a different direction.
Yes.
So the question is, how did you get involved? How did this happen?
Where does it say? And it's either Netflix right there, right there. They saw, I think, what I did with Game Over Man, and they were looking for a director for this. And it was kind of classic, right place, right time, right pitch, because I came in with the right attitude for the project, and you know, Sandler was like, yeah, he could do it, and I had to meet Jen. Jen was like, yeah, you're great.
So what did you have to do or say to them? I mean, how did you present yourself to Netflix and to these stars who were also producers of the film?
Yeah, well, I mean, with this flick, I went in there after I read the script. I went in and I knew it was a Happy Madison production. Being a fan of Adam Sandler's forever, you know, he's the best. But I went in there saying, like, I don't want to. I knew it was Adam and I knew it was Jen, and the rest of the cast was kind of a blank canvas. So I went in there with a hard stance on, I want this cast to be international. Like, I want it to actually feel, I don't want it to be like the actors we see in comedies all the time. It should not be that. They should actually feel like from a new realm to the Sandler audience, you know, which is primarily America. So that was my big take, was putting together an excellent ensemble cast that was believable, so that these characters could fall into this, you know, this adventure.
So the idea for international cast was part of your pitch?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because Netflix has the means to do it. Like, I know how they work, having done Game Over Man with them, and they were like, you know, they just have access to information, like everything, and so they have the means to make a global cast work, and they know who will work, and we found an amazing cast. I mean, give it up for the
Amazing
cast.
cast. Oh my gosh.
I mean, these guys are absolutely incredible. I mean, Luke Evans was crazy. He's a madman. Terrence Stamp, Zod, right there in the center of it. Jesus, Louise, Dari, Adil. I did Ghosted with him on Fox. And then I was like, he's got to play the Maharaja. I did one episode. And I read the part, and I was like, I got to make him older. And he was the dude. And then Danny Boone and Scioli. Yeah, it's crazy cast.
Wow, wow. I mean, Kyle, to me, that was one of the most delightful things about this, was this international cast, which was like put into this international setting that was so lively and so, you know, vivacious. I mean, you had a Formula One race in Monte Carlo. You were cruising in the Mediterranean, and you had a car chase
Yeah,
in a very hot car.
Yeah.
So totally amazing.
We're the first film crew in the history of Formula One to be allowed to shoot within their sport. And we did it in Monte Carlo in one of like the craziest craziest areas where they shut down the streets to race in the streets. It's like, that was something that was unreal to go out there and film. Yeah.
Wow.
It was tough. Yeah, we had to shoot. We could get like 3 or 4 shots a day. So we had to go shoot some during practice, some during warm up, and we'd have to move our crews like around with all these like yellow vests on and stuff to get down by the tracks.
So talk about the locations, because the locations are very important to this film.
Extremely important.
And I mean, how talk about the whole kind of the mechanics of going from place to place, the mechanics of working with foreign crews is challenging,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. French
talk about
crew,
those things?
Italian crew, Montreal French crew. You know, yeah, the logistics were something to behold. Because it was like I'd go from Los Angeles to Montreal, where we had all of our stages, all of our sound stages and stuff, like the plane and the boat and the interior hotel, exterior hotel, Jen and Adam on the ledge and stuff like that. And then we would go from Montreal over to France and work on the Monte Carlo shoot for a little bit and try and figure out where we're going to put our cameras, because all this stuff, when they're in the box, no actors are there. That's all CG. So we had to shoot an array of Monte Carlo that was like a 360 during the race. So we had to raise this giant piece of equipment up about as high as the ceiling while the race was going on, so that we were shooting 360 degrees. So in Montreal, we could, you know, plug that information behind the green screen, and we were just acting on a green screen. And so we were working on that, and then we would go to Italy and go from like the Liguria coast, where we shot all the boat stuff, up to Milan, where we shot a lot of Monaco, and then into beautiful Lake Como, and Lake Como, I was just, that's where George Clooney fucking lives. And it was just like, what is going on? These guys are taking boats to Clooney's house, and I'm like, what's happening? What is this?
And you were working with, you know, 2 highly respected, very successful actors. I mean, how was the chemistry, you working with them? You're a young guy.
Yeah, but I think they saw I would do anything for this movie when I was in it. You know, I wanted to make an excellent film. I really, really wanted to do that. And I knew I had all of the resources, so I didn't have an excuse. If I came away with a bad film, it would be like kind of on me, because like totally on me, because they're paying the money, they got the talent and the eyeballs. I now have the cast. Now I have to make something that really clicks. So while we were in it, I was in it, and I think they knew I would do anything for the movie. They knew I was trying to make a excellent film, and they're hella great collaborators, you know, really good at the improvisation, the chemistry, the free-flowing, fluid set environment. They're great.
Okay, all you filmmakers out there, I hope you heard that. You'll do anything for the movie. It's about the creation. It's about the movie. Right?
There are lines, but yes, definite lines.
So, I mean, you just stressed me out by talking about all this responsibility. How did you deal with stress?
Well, on the day that I got this movie, I went home and I found out that my wife was pregnant with our first son. First child. We found out he was a son when I was in Montreal. But that kind of helped. Like having my wife and now my child there was like something for me to be like, there is a bigger picture outside of this movie, you know, and it could pull me out, because something like this, I would go to sleep at night having a thought about blocking like a week in advance, you know, and I'd be like trying to crack the code of where this character needs to stand in order for the murder to believe that like everybody could do it. You know, I needed them all to land in proximity. That's just an example. And I'll go to sleep at like 2 o'clock in the morning, wake up at like 6:30 and be right back into that same thought. like right into it without skipping a beat, and then it'd be like, oh, okay, got it. Next, what's the next thing? Because the checklist was so crazy. So it's easy to not come up for air. So I think having like, you know, my family around was really cool. That was helpful.
Were you ever really afraid?
Fuck yes. Brennan knows. My assistant's right over there. He's the one that's laughing because he knows I'm like fucking vaping in the bathroom. Yeah, yeah. But you know, always doing my homework. I always did my homework as best I could. Sometimes it's like, and then be open to the moment, because there's nothing more important than like, no matter how much fucking prep I do, there's nothing more important than like what we're shooting right now. That's it. That's the movie. The other thoughts and all the other bullshit, that's not the movie. The movie is what you're rolling on. So it's like you got to stay in that moment too.
Can you share with us something that went terribly wrong that you had to work around and fix?
Oh yeah, the Testarossa. So when they're running out and they see the Testarossa for the first time and they jump into the car and Jen's on the the European side, that we were supposed to shoot the second half of our day, but at the same time, second unit was shooting a lot of the car chase stuff. And there's a shot at the beginning of the car chase where the Alfa Romeo comes around the corner, like people are drinking cafe and stuff. And it's the same thing where the Testarossa comes around and he's like, you got to downshift. So that shot where it's coming around, they needed a Testarossa to do it, and they were going to do it with one of our other Testarossas, the fake ones, not the real $250,000 Testarossa. Right. They were supposed to take a fake one out and do all the stunt stuff with it, but unfortunately they didn't have their fake one ready in time, so they asked my unit if they could borrow the real Testarossa that I was going to shoot at the second half of the day. So I was like, I don't know, this doesn't feel right. Like, my first AD hit me up and I was like, dude, my gut is like, no, you know? But he was like, oh, it'll be fine, mate. It's all good. Because we got to get it done. So, of course, I'm like, yes, go shoot it. It makes sense. We have to shoot this. We don't have a lot of time. And I wasn't there, but I received a text later of just one of the producers filming the monitor. And it's like the Testarossa coming around. It's like, meh, and then it just goes crunch and hits a van that's coming on. One of our stunt drivers just didn't get out of the way and totally crunched the whole Ferrari. It was like... So then they brought it back onto set on a flatbed, and like I'm like at lunch, they're like, "You want to see it?" I'm like, "I see it right there. It's on a flatbed. I can't shoot with that." Like, so we just had to, you know, move things around and be fluid and come back and get that shot another day. And then on that day, it started raining. So I was like, "When am I gonna get this fucking joke? I just want this joke of her driving." Took a lot of work though.
It all worked really great. There are some really great comic moments. I remember once a while back, I think you might have been in your second season or something of Workaholics, and you were telling me how hard it was to do comedy. There's a lot of like really subtle scenes in this, you know, the guy who doesn't speak English, and it's just a look, and everyone's laughing. I mean, how... Can you share with us here how you create that comedy, how you make those moments that are those visual gags? You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. I mean, comedy comes from a lot of places, but the more I watch this movie and the more I've worked on this movie, I think like a lot of it is like rhythms and like finding the comedic rhythm and, you know, of course the right juxtaposition of shots. But I think like, I don't know, man. You just have to kind of be aware in the moment and always be kind of winking. Especially with this movie, it was a lot of winky stuff, you know. And Sandler was downplaying his performance, so he was tossing stuff out, which was cool. Not going for the joke, just being kind of funny in the environment, which I think is like what makes it ultimately grounded and relatable. Agree. You know, because otherwise it's like so... joke, you know what I mean? And it's like, that's not funny because you just told me it was funny. I want to laugh because I think that it's funny.
if that made any sense.
Totally did. Do you have a favorite scene? Do you have a favorite moment?
Well, the scene that got me, like, where when I was reading the movie, and I got to the scene for the first time, and I was like, I'm gonna make this movie, was right after Malcolm is murdered, and the colonel is like, should we pull the knife out? And he's like, don't pull it out. And he fucking pulls it out, and then it's like, oh, you should have left it in for the cops. It's like, should I put it back in? No, don't put it in. Crunch. And I, like, when I first read that, I was just like, okay, that is a true great joke, like a truly great joke that I must shoot that scene.
Did you have a lot of time to rehearse with this amazing international cast?
No, they're all busy, every one of them. So it was like hard to wrangle a rehearsal before we started. So what I did is I do this with every movie. Every piece of cast has this task. I make a questionnaire that's, story dependent and, like, based in the world, and just write down, like, what is it, like 10, 15, 20 questions, and they have to answer it in character and then send it back to me, or give it to me when we meet, or send it back, before we meet. I want to meet them that way, if it's not an audition, but when we know we're working, like, I think that it's a good way for them to kind of dig into the character, and then it's also great for me to have a reference of, like, oh, you think you should get this money because of this. That's your motive. You know what I mean? Like, it just helps fuel the performance.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's really good advice.
I've been doing it since Workaholics. I did it on Workaholics because it came out of, like, necessity, because I was working with those guys and I was hanging out with those guys every day. And so what I wanted to do was try and define the line on that show, because it was like, I love you guys, I hang out with you all the time. When are we acting? And also, what are the differences between your characters and you? So then, yeah, it just became a great tool. Did it on Game Over Man, and did it here too.
Fantastic. I think we want to get some questions?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Who has a question for Mr. Newacheck here? Right over here in the corner. And I'm going to repeat the question. We're streaming this, so we're not hear it. So please state it clearly, and then I'll repeat it.
This is 3 questions, and
Okay.
I have them remembered.
Okay, do you want to repeat them then?
First one, what's up with Terrence Stamp? Terrence Stamp is unreal, the best. I mean, I have great Terrence Stamp. Terrence Stamp, we cast him. He was down. He's ready to go. We send a makeup team to London to get his whole face cast, because we had to build that dummy to be stabbed and to take the knife in and out of and stuff. So we have sunk some serious dough into Terrence Stamp. And then we do a quick rewrite. This kind of goes into your second question. We'll get to more of that, but we're doing a rewrite after he had read what he was supposed to say, and he did not like some of the changes. And so he actually quit the movie. Yeah, he quit the movie. He emailed my assistant alone, and was like, I think you better find someone else to play Malcolm if you're going to be changing the lines like this. And it was like, uh-oh. So I was like, okay, we don't mess with his words. I get that, it's not. And so we changed it back. We were just like, he's Terrence Stamp, let's change it back. He's the man. Yeah, and then oh gosh, what was I gonna say? Now I'm thinking of the two other questions. So Terrence Stamp, we change it back, and he decides to come back. Yeah, it was all good. I forgot I had an ending, but I lost it. I was thinking about your two other questions, man. Oh no, here it is. Then Terrence Stamp shows up on set, and they're like, Terrence is here, Terrence is here, Terrence is here. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to his trailer. I go to his trailer, and he's like, so how is a Netflix movie different than any other film? And I was like, that's a pretty profound question. I approach it the same way. I think I'm making a movie the same way you'd make a movie back in the day. He's like, okay, good, because I've only worked with Fellini and Wilder. And I'm like, man. And I was so intimidated in that moment, but I just kind of like smiled, and I was like, and now you're working with Newacheck. I'll see you out there.
Yay!
Yeah. I'll see you out there. um, what was the second one now?
Rewrite.
Vanderbilt. Yeah, Vanderbilt's the man. He wrote Zodiac. That was one of the reasons that I really liked this movie too, because it was very true to the genre, and it had a screenwriter behind it that knew what he was doing. It wasn't just a comedy guy trying to jump over and do a genre thing like I was doing. We had one real genre guy in the building, you know. But yeah, he's the best. He was on set a lot. So to answer your question of improvisation, absolutely, because in comedy you do have to be truthful to the moment. You have to, if it's going to be relatable and grounded, you do have to kind of be like, what's funny right now? And let's try that. Let's say that, and let's build off of it. Especially with the Jen and Adam of it all. You know, they have to be able to kind of run around within this structured murder mystery. Yeah.
All right. Good questions. How about some more good questions? Well, your hand went up first.
No. Maurice, the question is, did Maurice have a bigger role? No. We did cast a Maurice, and we did shoot a Maurice, but he didn't make the cut. So I guess yeah. But that was like inflated because we thought it was funny. It was never like, it was like we were on set talking about Maurice all the time. And it was like, well, let's fucking get a Maurice in here. We had him in the montage where where they were like talking about the Americans, you know, in that where it's like just a jump cut sequence where everybody's talking about the death of Malcolm. We had Maurice in that sequence eating shrimp and talking about how he breastfed the shrimp and stuff. So like there is some stuff that hit the cutting room floor. So yeah. Did you think that Maurice might have been the fucking killer? I love that. I haven't heard that one yet, and that's beautiful. That is great critical thinking. Man, that's great. That's so cool. I've never ever thought of Maurice as a red herring until right now. And I've been with this film for a year and a half. Bro, that's so cool. When Susie's dying and she's scooping, you know what that is? You know what this is? This was her being like trying to say, because at one point we wanted her to try and we thought she might know that it was Grace. And so she was saying this is like a movie star. Yeah. No, well, I mean, we played it off like that in the cut, so it was like, yeah, of course. It was just like she's dying, doing some weird gestures and stuff. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Paying attention. I love it. I love it.
Okay. How about the first row, second row here?
That was the smoke signals were in the script. That was an Adam Sandler ad. Because Adam also played around with the script as well and was like, there was a lot of people kind of contributing. It was a very big collaboration. But the smoke signals, I believe, came from Adam. He wanted the rings. He loved the rings. I was kind of like, I remember being like, you gotta have the rings all the time, man. He's like, people are gonna love it. I'm like, yeah, I like it too. But I was like, it was one of those things I was questioning, and because when you're putting something out there for the first time, you're not sure, so you can be hypercritical and all that. But that was one where I really was like, yep, he knows what he's talking about. He did it because it's so funny when he does it in the car. It's like that's great. It's just like done, buttoned up. Yep.
It's worth the whole thing just to get the gag in the car.
It kind of was. Yeah. And when he breaks it, I love that. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That's like a big mind state that you kind of have to find, I think, or that I have found. That's like when it gets super stressful, you're just like, I am the movie. I am the project. So like, you can't really hurt me. You can only make me better. You know what I mean? But it's not personal. It's like I'm the movie. Yeah.
You pick them.
What's up, dude? Right there. Yep. White shirt. Hell yeah.
What was different from the last feature to this feature?
Yeah, totally. Because, I mean, as Joe was saying, this is a different beast. It's a different animal than the other film. Majorly. Like, I get worried sometimes about, I was just thinking about this today. If, like, family watches this, they see directed by Kyle Newacheck, and they're like, hey, let's go watch Game Over, man. And it's like, oh, whoops. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, man, that's weird, So, yeah, it was a big step for me to go broad, like kind of be like, I want kids to be able to watch this. I want, my uncle to be able to watch this. Like, so my uncle turned off Game Over Man halfway through, Uncle Stu. And it bummed me out because he was like the guy I talked about movies with all the time when I was a kid. And so this movie, I was like, I'm making a movie that Uncle Stu's not going to turn off. But I think like the most encouraging thing about this film and the easiest for me, it was like I just thought about how many people are going to watch this movie. And then I got like really amped up. Like I used to get like really amped up on subversive comedy, like crazy, like push the envelope and all that, like got me juiced. But when I thought about a movie with these guys, it's like, oh wow, so many people are going to actually click this. They're going to be like, what is this? What's going on? That I have to make it so that all of them have a good time watching the movie, because that's my job, is to make it entertaining for them. So I kind of fell in love with that along the way. I fell in love with just the amount of eyes that might be watching this and how like, geez, this is what I dreamed about as a kid, But yeah, it was limiting. I couldn't make as many dick jokes as I wanted to on set. I kind of had to like watch myself every once in a while. I couldn't just say everything that came to my mind. I learned a little discipline on this,
Well, the directors I admire the most are good in any genre. I mean, look at the work of Martin Scorsese, who's done musicals and done gangster films and everything else in between. So you really, really did a fantastic job in something that was so different from your past genres. It shows that you're a true artist and shows you that you're a very valuable and wonderful director. We have time for more questions.
I'm going to go up top. Oh, Ray, what's up?
how do you get the most out of your cast and crew and still maintain your sanity? So I didn't get all the beats there.
Yeah, the first thing that came to my mind is like long, fun rehearsals. Right there in the moment, right before you shoot. Have fun, play in the space, know what you're gonna do, and then measure twice, cut once. You know, so we're not burning. A lot of comedy directors will sit behind the monitor like this and look at the script and know what they have to capture and say, try this, say this, try this joke, and there's fucking writers right behind them just like saying, oh, try this. Tell him to pick his nose. Pick your nose? John C. Reilly's picking his nose and shit. It's like fucking crazy. Like, so that's how I was kind of, I don't know why that trend happened. I think because you didn't have to cut. So like when you don't have to cut, you just keep it rolling. It's quicker. You don't have to restart the engine. The engine's rolling. So like, okay, get everything we can right now. Fast, fast, fast. It's like a TV mentality. I don't like that at all. It burns everybody out. So I prefer to make every actor go through the entire scene well crafted each time so that they can have a good flight and they know exactly their emotional journey. Because when you start picking off these little like low-hanging fruit, to use a comedy term, you know, it's like you're not going to use that in the edit. That's not going to drive your story, and it might be making a grip laugh right next to you, but that's not going to make the world laugh in a year and a half, you know. So it's all because it's all about the performance. Yeah, man. And then just every day I'm like, no matter how hard it is, it's like this is fun. Like this, I'm making believe. I'm fucking pretending. Like I'm just pretending. They paid a lot of money, and I get to pretend. Well, it's not that stressful. And like I said, vaping in the bathroom helps that mentality. You know what I mean?
Okay, I saw some other hands earlier.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that moment had been in the script since the first time I read it, probably since the first draft, because it absolutely is like a, you know, cliche of the genre, as Jen says at the end of the film. You know, we were playing to every single one of the tropes or the cliches, the French inspector. I mean, all of it is like the kind of over dramatic, super motivated acting, you know, it's all part of the genre. So yeah, totally.
Some hand over here. That gentleman in the shirt.
He is big. He's like 7'8". Way bigger. Adam's the man. Like, I mean, Adam, it was like, it's weird because you see him, like, he's so relatable, right? Like, even when you don't know him, you're like, I feel like I know that guy. Like, it's kind of how I felt when I met him. I'm like, I know this guy. Like, I already know him. And he's great. He welcomed me right into his family of, you know, the Happy Madison, all those people, and his actual family, because his family's in the movie. His kids are, like, on the bus. His wife is the flight attendant, Jackie, and like everybody, so he's very generous, very kind. I mean, the weirdest thing was having Sandler be on set every day. I am a fan of Sandler since I was a kid, so like 94, I'm like, you know, I'm watching Billy Madison and all that stuff, and his comedy albums with, you know, They're All Gonna Laugh at You and The Goat. That's the stuff that me and my friends listen to, and there's certain things that are just in my DNA as a comedian. One of a deep cut from like What the Hell Happened to Me is this thing called Toll Booth Willie. You guys know, anybody know Toll Booth? Yeah, see, Adam knows it. All right, this is for me and you, bro. But like Toll Booth Willie, there's a deep cut, like a deep quotable in that where Toll Booth Willie's like getting quarters thrown at him and people are fucking pissing him off, and he's toll booth guy that people were fucking with. And he gets so mad one time, he says, "I'm coming out of the booth." And so, for whatever reason, I sit in a chair when I direct like this, and I watch a TV. And if something weird is going on set, or I'm like, "What's going on? Let's shoot. What's happening?" You know, and I'm getting some bullshit answer or something, and I'm getting a little bit upset, I always say, like, "I'm coming out of the booth," just because I listened to that when I was a kid. So now I'm in a certain scenario where this dude is right here, and I'm saying, "I'm coming out of the booth," and I'm getting out, and I just like, and he's like, "Toll Booth Willie, huh?" Like, yeah. Yeah, that's strange. That's a strange circumstance, you know? But it was fun, and he's the best. Yeah.
Okay. Matt.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll see you on Friday when Rotten Tomatoes gets a hold of this motherfucker. Yeah. Yes, Maharaja. Yeah, the guy is funny. Adil is funny. So I did that show on Fox that was Ghosted with Adam Scott and Craig Robinson because my friends were working on it, and I was like, that's the last episode of TV I've done. I haven't done it since. But I had a blast on the show, and I met Adil. He was on it, and he was the funniest. Like, when I rolled a camera and just let him go, I was like, oh, wow, okay, this guy's great. So as soon as I had the opportunity, and he's from London, so it was like it fit into the international mold that I was trying to do. It was a real character, and nobody knows him really. He's from the Big Sick. That was his big breakout. So yeah, he's still on the rise, which is great.
Really talented person. We had a, yeah.
Okay.
These are good questions, so I want to make sure that everyone out there hears them. The first part of it was, did you get help in terms of adapting yourself to shooting this type of film? And the second part of the question was, what was it like working with this Netflix around you? I mean, was that, how much freedom did you have?
Yeah, there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen on a project like this. A lot of managers, you know, a lot of producers, a lot of studio executives. So, wait, the first question specifically was, oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I was watching a lot of Italian cinema. This movie called The Conformist. You guys know that movie?
Yeah, good movie.
Yeah, killer movie. So my director of photography, Amir Mokri, and I found a common love for Storaro. Because I loved Dick Tracy as a kid. I just always thought it looked beautiful. And so then he was like, you got to check out The Conformist. So I watched The Conformist a lot. Like on a lot of flights, I would just like watch it while listening to other music, or just to kind of define like setting up a shot. And the way that movie uses like diagonals and focal planes and stuff and color, I just think is really cool. So yeah, I was watching a lot of that. And I watched a lot of murder mysteries. There's I watched The Orient Express, and that was a good, like, that was kind of my pitch, was like, I want to put Jen and Adam in the Kenneth Branagh film, you know, like that would be the best case scenario. That was part of the pitch. Um, yeah. What else was I watching? I was watching Columbo. A lot of Columbo on the planes because they just had like Columbo, and I love that show. And it was like, if you can tell a mystery in like 30 minutes, that's got the real easy beats, and you just learn it. It's like, okay, that's misdirection, right? Yeah, buried this here. Okay, comes back. It all kind of, and then this, what's the one? The Thin Man. You guys know the Thin Man? Yeah, you know Thin Man from back in the day, like a 30s. It was like a 30s, basically like, I think they did like 9 films or something like that. It was a franchise, and the writer James Vanderbilt had that in mind, the Thin Man. Yeah.
They were different. They had a whole different type of chemistry. They were very cool martini drinking kind of people.
Yes, they were. And one of them was a detective, and it was more like cool. This was like more fish out of water.
Yeah.
But I did watch the Thin Man series, and I was like, what they were doing as a husband and wife solving the mystery was definitely a guiding light for how to tonally take this movie when I wasn't sure, you know. Yeah. And the producers of the movie, they helped tremendously because all of them have made a movie. You know, there's all of Sandler's producers that have been making his movies forever, and then, you know, Jim Stern, Trip Vincent, these guys have made big movies. So of course, when I have my freakouts where it's like, I haven't shot anything and it's 6 hours, how am I supposed to make my day? They're like, chill, man. You know, real easy. Like, they were good. So yeah, that was super helpful. And then Netflix, they're wild, man. Netflix is wild. Like, they're just a really cool studio that does the craziest stuff because they believe in the art. When other studios will shut down a film because of a financial math equation, Netflix won't. And that's what's really cool about them in Hollywood right now. They're at a point where they can just like kind of change the way that we're all thinking about making stuff and making films and everything. And I don't know, man, they're changing it. But from Game Over Man to this one, totally different. Totally different. Game Over Man, they sent me to Vancouver and I made the movie. And then I think maybe they watched it. Like this one, they were all over it, you know, all over like the drafts, the script, all that, because it's much more of a commodity to them. They know that this is going to be blasted everywhere and people are going to watch it. And we actually reshot the beginning of the movie. The first 4 scenes were from a reshoot because the head of Netflix, Scott Stuber, was the original beginning we shot kind of on rocky ground. We didn't know what our beginning was. We were kind of like, yeah, it had changed so much in the prep process that we shot something that was not sure-footed, and it was apparent. But once you got past those scenes, the movie was a rocket ship. It was like, this is great. And it was still fine. Like, I thought the movie was okay, but we could have used better footing when we take off. Scott Stuber agreed to reshoot him, and he was like, we must reshoot him because he was so worried about people clicking out of the movie in the first 10 minutes. So that was like a major concern, which honestly is probably not a concern of any other studio to date, because the model is buy a ticket, spend $14, sit in the seat. If they buy a ticket, spend $14, they can sit through shitty 10 minutes if the rest of the movie is great. So they probably would not reshoot that and start it. But that was a major concern. So it's that type of thinking is like what's kind of changing the way that shit's getting created. It's wild.
You know, you're talking about the conformist and Storaro and the color. I see that in this film. I mean, I really see that, and I see the Thin Man. I see that too, and I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, we all have to go back to those kind of things to see what those other people have done and see if we can take it to another level. And I'm saying this because the, you're talking about collaboration now, and what I love most about our industry and what production crews do is how they collaborate together. So maybe you could talk a little bit about collaborating with your DP and with your production designer, with the art department, with all of the stunt people, you know, the second unit people. I mean, this is the coordination is immense. The collaboration is so important to make something that has this much action and this much detail.
Yeah, yes, it is. It's complex. You're managing a lot of creative minds, a lot of crazies, a lot of. But I think that I'm the craziest one. But like working with my director of photography he's Amir Mokri. He did Bad Boys 2. He did the Joy Luck Club back in the day. He did a couple Transformers movies with Michael Bay, a couple Fast movies. So he had been like around the block, and he kind of knew what was going on. So, but his attitude was so not of comedy that I had to kind of keep him in his own world and just kind of work with him on a solo basis, like. But I never frame a shot now without thinking about Amir Mokri. It just doesn't happen because what he brought to the camera when we were shooting the F1 was the first time we shot together, and he was operating the camera and stuff, and it was like he's just bringing these diagonals that I had never noticed before, like the diagonals into the corner of the frame, like always trying to hit a corner. And I was like, that's amazing. I've never like played that game with a camera. And so, I mean, and his confidence in able to get something done. He was the fastest director of photography that he had that reputation, and that's kind of what I wanted, because I knew that Adam and Jen like to work short hours. They don't like to work all 12 hours. And I actually am like, yeah, we shouldn't be working 12 hours anyways. That's insane. There's no other industry that does that. So I like to get stuff done in like, 9 or 10. I think that's reasonable. So him being fastest dude, like, well, we had to work quick. We had to be under the gun. I mean, Amir was just amazing. So that's the director of photography. Stunt guy Gary Powell, he's a second unit director. He did the chase at the end of the movie, which is just like, that's been sitting inside of me for years. I always want to do a chase like that. And he did the Bond, James Bond chase, the parkour chase at the beginning of Casino Royale. So I basically just needed to know that, and that he was interested in making the movie, and he was hired, because that chase had such a defining. I loved it. I was like, it's an amazing chase. First time somebody did parkour. Yeah, it's crazy. But he did that. That was him kind of doing his thing. We had to work heavily on the prep of that, like design the storyboards, figure out where the action is going to happen, what action will happen around what lines, and shoot it in a way that can be manipulated. But that chase was no walk in the park. There's a lot of beats to that chase going around Lake Como on like 2-lane roads, and it's like, that was not easy. It took him a week and a half to shoot that. Yeah, and then technology rocks, because he's on one side of Lake Como, like shooting that stuff and filming the monitors, and then texting me, and I'm over at the villa shooting them, like with Cavendish being all dead, So that's happening at the same time. And then sometimes there's another unit that does inserts that follows me. So like I don't do the inserts, I go on to the next set. And then we might have 3 units going. So it's a lot. It's like you're just buried, completely buried. Yeah, in questions.
When you got good people around you, it really is helpful.
Oh yeah, on this movie I got to pick like the top, Like my first AD, Jamie Christopher, did all the Harry Potters, did a lot of was it the Avengers that he did? Yeah. He's just international first AD. And so this was like a walk in the park for him. So it's kind of cool being in an environment where I'm like, oh God, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed. He's like, it's just money, don't worry about it. It's money in days. And I'm like, yeah, all right, that's true. I'm gonna make believe and vape in the bathroom.
Okay, let's take one more question.
Sounds good.
You pick.
Go ahead, my man. I did want, I like to have some crossover. You know, I think that that's cool to be able to spot a trail of a career, you know. That's awesome. That's fun. And Eric was Jimmy. Like, it just worked out. It was like, okay, so I'm not going to put the dudes in this movie. Like, that's not really going to work. That goes against, like, my whole philosophy of the film. But there's this partner that only has, like, 2 or 3 scenes in the movie. And it's got to be funny. It has to feel like a Sandler film because I wanted the beginning to be, like, warm and fuzzy. And then you take kind of this dip into another world. And Eric is so warm and fuzzy, you know? So you open the movie with him, and it has to go through multiple layers. Like Netflix has to approve, all these approvals have to happen. But I was just like ready to sharpshoot Eric, basically. Like there was a lot of like, oh, maybe this person should be here, maybe this person should be here. Oh, maybe we can get Chance the Rapper. I'm like, we're not gonna get Chance the Rapper to be Adam Sandler's partner. That's crazy, you know? Like, yes, good call. Let's get Chance in the movie, but no. So like when that falls flat, it's kind of like I can be like, pew, Eric Griffin stand-up special to Sandler's text. He's like, oh, this is hilarious. And then he talks to his team, and I'm lining Eric up to be like, you ready to go? Because we got to pull the trigger. So yeah, it was definitely it all fell into place perfectly. And then the other thing that if you want to know about Workaholics, there's another really great hidden gem in this film that
think
on
I saw
Friday
it.
you saw
Did I
it?
see it? Was it in the airplane?
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was on the screen in first class.
That's right. When Jen
I
breaks
saw Adam Devine in there, right?
Adam Devine and Jamie Demetriou. Yeah. Yeah, it was like there's Game Over Man playing on the screen of so I have like that was amazing. That came out of like what can we put on the screens? We can't clear anything. Well, can we use Netflix stuff? Oh, Netflix says you can use a couple of their things. I'm like, can I use Game Over Man? Yes. Okay, cool. So now I have a screen with Game Over Man on it in this movie, and then hopefully on my next movie I can get a screen with that particular moment on it, so I get a Russian nesting doll of films. Yeah.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, Kyle, it's so generous of you to share your time with us. You know, we love your work, and we love you. We love how you can bring this great experience and your accomplishments to us and share them with us, because we get a lot out of it, don't we? Don't we love Kyle?
Thank you for having me.
Kyle.
Thank you,
And,
guys. I
if we
love
can-
this place.
Maybe we can crank this down by you just giving everyone a little bit of advice in terms of how to hang in there, what to do to get to be where they want to be.
Oh man, I just have to like look up at the lights when I think about that, because it's just like you just gotta find the right piece of creativity that speaks to you, whatever that notion is that you feel you have to do, and kind of like these guys, answer the call, you know. Just if you got something in your head, you got an image, you got a thought, you have a story, you have a moment, answer the call and go on the adventure. You know, take the creative adventure. Like, why not? Honestly, and then you'll be surprised where that adventure might lead you, and then where that adventure might lead you, and that adventure might lead you, and then one day you're going to look back and say, nothing could have happened if I didn't answer the call that one time 10, 15, 20 years ago. So just, hey, Nike time, just do it.
Okay. Any plugs you want to make? Do you have any plugs for future projects?
Murder Mystery comes out on
There we
Friday.
go. Good enough.
It's going to be great. Watch it with your whole family.
Thank you, man.